Hello my friends, today we're going to be making a baby neutral card and we're going to use a fun coloring technique using a Versamarker and chalk. So let's get started. We're going to start by making our background for our card. So I'm starting with some very thin computer paper, just some scratch piece of paper that I had. And it's cut down to a standard card size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And what I'm going to do is just simply adhere my pattern paper to make like a quilt look. And so I have 6 squares, or excuse me, rectangles cut, and they're cut down to 2 inches by 1 3/4. And I have 2 different patterns, and I have 3 of each pattern. So this is what our background will end up looking like. So I'm just going to start by sticking these down just using my ATG gun right to my computer paper. And the computer paper is going to be larger than these pieces put together, and that's okay because I wanted to trim it down. This just gives me something to glue these pieces down to and not have any cracks in the background. So I'm simply going to stick these down right next to each other to make my quilt pattern. So now we have our pattern. What I'm going to do is take a stamp. This is a stitch stamp. It's from Close to My Heart called Sew Stitches, and it's an older set. And I'm going to use some basic brown ink from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to stamp this border along the outside edges of this quilt we made. Now that that's stamped, I can trim the edges to straighten up any misalignment that I may have had, as well as to get rid of the excess copy paper underneath. So I'm simply just going to trim this off. Now that we have this piece, we're going to set this aside and start working on our stamped image. My stamp I'm using is this little monkey image from Unity Stamp and Bella Boulevard. And I have it already stamped here on some white cardstock using Early Espresso ink. And I wanted to just first demonstrate the technique with the Versamarker and chalks. So I have my pastels here. These are from Stampin' Up. And it comes with a large array of colors, as you can see here. And I'm just going to use a Q-tip to do my coloring. Now you want a Versamarker because this is going to help the chalk to stick to where you want it, as well as intensify the color. And I'll show you that in a minute. So to start, I'm going to start by coloring the face and the ears. So I'm taking the Versamarker with the brush tip, and I'm brushing over the area that I want to color in. It's an invisible ink, so you won't see it, but it is adding some stickiness to the image. So the key here is to only use the marker where you want your first color of ink or chalk to go. And now I'm just taking my Q-tip, and I'm using Close to Cocoa chalk. I'm just dabbing it into the color, and then now I'm just going to color in a circular motion over my image. And it's going to stick, the chalk is going to stick where I place the Versamarker. And you don't have to be too precise because that marker acts as an adhesive for the chalk. And chalk is forgiving in that if you do get it out of the lines, you can erase it with a white eraser. So there is our first coloring, and I wanted to show you with the Versamarker, with this brush tip, if you have some unevenness in your coloring, you can actually use the marker and blend. And it will blend the chalk ink and make it a little more smooth. So this is, again, a very forgiving technique, and it's great for if you're just starting out with chalks. So I'm just coloring over again to even out the color. of the chalk. If I want it more dark, I can go over it again with some more chalk and just continue coloring until I get the desired look I want. Very simple. Now for his middle portion here, I didn't want it so dense, so I'm using the color Apricot Appeal, and I'm not going to use the Versamarker, and I'm just going to color in this portion so that I get that soft color and it's not dense. Okay, now I want to show you the comparison of using the Versamarker versus not. So here I have the same two images stamped and colored with chalk. This one was using the Versamarker. This one was not. This was just chalk to the paper. And you can see the difference in intensity of the color. So that's what you get when using the Versamarker. And also, again, it gives you the flexibility to erase. Whereas here, when it's straight onto the cardstock, if you mess up and you erase, you can erase the chalk from the image, not just the places where you may have messed up. Whereas here, I can erase, and wherever the chalk is on the Versamarker, it'll still stick. So that's the benefit of using the Versamarker. Okay, so with that technique, I already pre-colored and cut out this entire image here. And this will go on the front panel of our card. So I'm going to go ahead and start assembling. Here's our card base. It's a standard card base. And then this is our quilt pattern. I'm going to glue this down and center it onto the card front. Leaving a border around the edge as equal as I can get it. Okay, I have pre-punched out a 1 3/4 circle out of crumb cake cardstock, and I just did some dashed lines using a brown marker. That's going to go here, and our stamped image will go right on top just to add a little bit more layering. So we're going to adhere the circle right down to the card front in this bottom corner. I'm just going to see for placement about here. And we're going to stick our monkey image down with some dimensional adhesive. So I'm using my dimensionals from Stampin' Up. And stick that down here. Okay. Now we're going to add a little bit more for our sentiment. What I did here was I just hand drew a little word bubble using a pencil, and I just hand wrote in cursive the word welcome in pencil. And we're going to stamp the sentiment that says little one, and I have my letters here on my block. This is from the Lawn Fawn Claire's ABCs. And we're going to use pumpkin pie ink. So we're going to stamp the word little and one inside that word bubble. Okay. Now for this word bubble, I'm going to take my Stampin' Up! Chocolate chip marker, and now I'm just going to trace over it with my marker. So now we have the sentiment here, and we're going to place that here with dimensionals. And I'll put it at a slight tilt here. Okay, and then we're going to add just a little bit of embellishment. So what I have here are some little hearts that I had cut out from some Jilly Bean Soup designer paper. So I'm just going to stick these down here. And I have a little button from Hero Arts. It's from their neutrals. And I just put some embroidery thread through it. And that too is going to go as part of this little cluster here. So we're going to stick that down as well. And I'm going to use my Tombow multi-purpose adhesive for this heart, just because it's smaller and I didn't want to use my ATG gun. So I'm going to place it right about here. I'm going to use a small piece of a dimensional for that small heart, so I'm just going to cut a little piece from the edge here and use that. Okay, and then I'm just going to add this little button. I think I'll add it over here. And for that I'm just going to use a mini glue dot. And there's our finished card. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.